Stray animals face a heartbreaking reality every day. Wandering the streets, they search for food, shelter, and a small glimmer of kindness. Many of these innocent creatures are abandoned, left to navigate a world that often feels cold and uncaring. Their lives are filled with uncertainty, loneliness, and the constant struggle to survive. But sometimes, it takes just one person to change everything for them, a single act of compassion that turns despair into hope. This is one of those stories where a chance encounter between a stray puppy and a kind-hearted individual transforms not only the puppy's life, but also inspires countless others to make a difference. In this case, that person was Steph Curry, known not just for his incredible talent on the basketball court, but also for his generosity and warmth off it. What started as a simple moment on a quiet afternoon turned into a powerful reminder of how small acts of kindness can create ripples of change. Steph Curry is celebrated worldwide as one of basketball's greatest players, but his impact extends far beyond the court. Known for his remarkable skills and game-changing performances, Steph is equally admired for his kindness and generosity. He has a genuine heart for helping others, often using his platform to support education, fight hunger, and uplift underserved communities. Whether it's through his charitable foundation or everyday acts of compassion, Steph's actions reflect his belief in making the world a better place. His humanity shines brightest in moments of connection, proving that greatness isn't just about talent, it's about the difference you make. It was a sunny afternoon in Steph Curry's hometown, and the atmosphere was filled with joy and energy after a local basketball event. Families, fans, and young athletes had gathered to celebrate the sport and connect with their idol. Steph, as always, had spent time signing autographs, taking photos, and sharing encouraging words with the crowd. As the event wrapped up, he made his way toward the parking lot, his warm smile still lingering from the day's interactions. As he approached his car, something unusual caught his eye. Near the edge of the parking lot, a small, scruffy puppy stood timidly. Its fur was matted and unkempt, its frame thin and frail. The little dog looked completely out of place amidst the bustling activity. What struck Steph most were its eyes, bright but cautious, filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Steph paused, his heart tugged by the sight. It wasn't every day he came across a stray puppy, especially one that seemed so vulnerable. The dog stood frozen for a moment, unsure of whether to approach or retreat. As Steph began walking again, he noticed the puppy following him at a cautious distance. Each time he glanced back, it would stop, its small body trembling slightly, but as soon as he faced forward, the puppy would resume trailing behind. Amused and curious, Steph slowed his pace, allowing the puppy to inch closer. He turned slightly and crouched down, offering a gentle hand toward the little creature. "Hey, buddy," he said softly, his tone as warm and inviting as his demeanor. But the puppy, still wary, stayed just out of reach. Steph stood up again, deciding to give the puppy time. He continued toward his car, and the persistent little dog kept following, maintaining its distance but refusing to leave. Each hesitant step seemed to convey a quiet plea, "Notice me, help me." By the time Steph reached his car, the puppy was just a few feet away, its tail tucked low but wagging faintly. Steph's heart ached for the tiny animal, its fragile form and timid courage, a stark contrast to the bustling world around it. He knew he couldn't just drive away. Something about this moment felt too important to ignore. This wasn't just a stray puppy, it was a call for kindness, and Steph was ready to answer. As Steph Curry reached his car, he couldn't help but glance back at the scruffy little puppy still lingering a few feet away. The tiny dog, thin and trembling, seemed torn between fear and trust, its bright eyes locked on Steph with a silent plea. Something about the puppy's persistence tugged at his heart. He slowed his steps, stopping completely to observe its behavior. The puppy stood still, its tail tucked low but wagging faintly. Its small, fragile frame made it clear that it hadn't eaten well in days. As Steph crouched down, the puppy hesitated, taking a step back, unsure of his intentions. "Hey, little one," he said softly, his voice filled with warmth. "What's your story?" His security team approached, clearly concerned. "Mr. Curry, do you want us to remove it?" one of them asked, gesturing toward the puppy. Steph shook his head. "No, it's just a puppy. It's not bothering anyone," he replied firmly. "Let's see if we can help it instead." Turning back to the little dog, Steph motioned to one of his assistants. "Do we have any water or snacks in the car?" he asked. Moments later, a small bottle of water and a granola bar were brought to him. Steph gently placed the snack on the ground a few feet in front of the puppy, giving it space to feel safe. At first, the dog just stood there, sniffing the air cautiously. After a few tense moments, it crept forward, its nose twitching as it sniffed the snack. Finally, it took the granola bar in its mouth, and darted a few steps back, chewing eagerly. Steph smiled, his heart warming at the sight. "There you go," he said softly, watching as the puppy devoured the snack. He poured some water into a small dish and placed it on the ground. This time, the puppy hesitated less, stepping closer to drink. As the little dog relaxed slightly, Steph reached out slowly, his hand extended in a gesture of trust. Though it flinched at first, the puppy eventually let him stroke its matted fur. "You're braver than you look," Steph murmured, gently petting its head. The moment was simple but profound. Steph's act of compassion wasn't just about feeding a hungry animal, it was about acknowledging a small life that needed kindness and care. As the scruffy little puppy finished drinking the water Steph Curry had offered, something remarkable began to happen. Its initial fear and hesitation seemed to fade ever so slightly. Its tail, which had been tucked low moments ago, now gave a few cautious wags. Encouraged by the subtle sign of trust, Steph stayed crouched, keeping his movements slow and his voice soft. "You're doing great, buddy," he said, his tone warm and inviting. "See, nobody's here to hurt you." The puppy edged a little closer, its nose twitching as it sniffed at Steph's outstretched hand. It paused just inches away, its bright eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and hope. Steph smiled, holding his position to let the puppy make the next move. After a few moments, it inched forward and pressed its damp nose against his fingers. "That's it," Steph murmured, gently scratching behind the puppy's ears. The small dog flinched at first but then leaned into his touch, its tail wagging a little faster now. As Steph continued to pet the puppy, speaking to it in soothing tones, a small crowd began to form nearby. People who had been leaving the basketball event stopped to watch the unexpected moment unfold. Parents nudged their children, and a few fans whispered excitedly, "Is that Steph Curry?" Despite the growing attention, Steph stayed focused on the puppy. "You're tougher than you look," he said, his voice filled with affection. The puppy, now visibly more relaxed, sat down at his feet, its trust in him steadily growing. The crowd, moved by the interaction, began snapping pictures and recording videos. But what struck them most wasn't just the sight of a famous athlete, it was the genuine care and patience he showed for the small, vulnerable creature. One bystander, a young boy holding his mother's hand, whispered, "Mom, look how nice he is to the puppy." Steph glanced up briefly, acknowledging the crowd with a small wave and a warm smile. "Let's keep it quiet," he said softly, motioning for everyone to give the puppy space. The little dog, now comfortable at Steph's side, looked up at him with trusting eyes. For the first time, it seemed to feel safe. Steph, too, felt a deep connection, knowing that this wasn't just about helping a stray, it was about showing kindness where it was needed most. As Steph Curry continued to comfort the scruffy little puppy, a woman from the small crowd hesitantly stepped forward. She appeared to be in her late 30s, dressed casually but with a kind and concerned expression on her face. She stopped a few feet away, glancing nervously at Steph and the puppy before speaking up. "Excuse me, Mr. Curry," she said softly, her voice tinged with hesitation. "I think I know a little about this puppy." Steph looked up, his attention shifting from the dog to the woman. "You do? Please, tell me," he said, his voice calm and inviting. The woman nodded and stepped a little closer, careful not to startle the puppy. "I've seen this little one wandering around here for a few days now. It's been hanging near the parking lot, and by the food trucks at the event," she explained. "It always looks so scared, but it doesn't run too far. It's like it's waiting for someone to come back for it." Steph's expression softened as he listened, his hand still gently stroking the puppy's fur. "Do you think it was abandoned?" he asked, glancing down at the thin, trembling animal. The woman sighed, her shoulders sagging slightly. "It's possible. You see it a lot these days, people struggling to take care of their pets. Times are hard, and unfortunately, some animals end up left behind. It breaks my heart." Steph looked back at the puppy, its wide, trusting eyes now fixed on him. The thought of this small, helpless creature being left to fend for itself stirred something deep within him. "Has anyone tried to help it?" he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. The woman shook her head. "Not that I've seen. It's so timid that most people just walk past it. But it seems to trust you," she added with a faint smile. Steph nodded, his resolve hardening. He knew in that moment that he couldn't leave the puppy to face the world alone. "Thank you for telling me," he said, his voice steady. Turning to his assistant, Steph made his decision. "We need to make sure this little one gets the care it needs. Let's figure out the next steps. I'm not letting it stay out here." With those words, Steph committed himself to ensuring the puppy's safety, proving once again that small acts of kindness could lead to life-changing moments. As Steph Curry stood near the scruffy little puppy, now visibly more relaxed at his feet, he knew he couldn't leave the situation unresolved. The puppy's story, shared by the kind bystander, weighed heavily on him. It was clear that this tiny creature had been through a lot, and Steph felt a deep sense of responsibility to help. Turning to his assistant, Steph gave a firm instruction. "Call a local animal rescue," he said. "Let's make sure they can take it in and give it the care it needs." The assistant nodded and immediately began making calls. Steph crouched down again, gently petting the puppy's head. "You're not going to be alone anymore, buddy," he murmured softly. The puppy, as if understanding his words, wagged its tail faintly and leaned into his touch. As the minutes passed, Steph realized that calling a rescue wasn't enough for him. He felt a stronger connection to the puppy, a sense that he couldn't just hand it off and walk away. Standing up, he made another decision. "We'll foster it," he announced to his team, "at least until it's strong enough to find a permanent home. I want to make sure it gets the love and care it deserves." The team exchanged glances, a mix of surprise and admiration, but they all nodded in agreement. One of them offered a blanket to wrap the puppy in for the ride, ensuring it would feel warm and secure. As they carefully carried the puppy to Steph's car, the little dog seemed to relax further, curling up into the blanket with a soft sigh. Steph climbed into the car with the puppy beside him, offering reassuring pats as they drove home. When they arrived at his residence, Steph's family greeted him at the door. His kids' faces lit up with excitement when they saw the small bundle in his arms. "Dad, is that our new dog?" one of them asked eagerly. Steph smiled. "Not exactly. We're just helping it out for now," he explained. "But we're going to give it a safe place to stay until it finds a forever home." The family quickly set up a cozy bed for the puppy, offering food, water, and plenty of love. The puppy, sensing the warmth and safety around it, wagged its tail a little more confidently. For Steph, this wasn't just about saving a stray, it was about showing his family and others that compassion can change lives, one small act at a time. At Steph Curry's home, the once timid puppy quickly began to feel safe and loved. His kids, filled with excitement, spent hours playing with their new furry friend. They laughed as the puppy wagged its tail and tried to chase after their toys. Though still cautious, the little dog started to relax, its trust growing with every gentle pat and kind word. Steph's family worked together to care for the puppy, giving it plenty of food, a warm bed, and lots of affection. It wasn't long before the puppy began to show its playful side, wagging its tail more often and curling up comfortably at their feet. For the Curry household, the experience became a heartwarming reminder of the power of kindness. Feeling inspired, Steph decided to share the puppy's story on social media. He posted a photo of the scruffy dog alongside a heartfelt message. "This little guy followed me home, and we're giving him a safe place to stay until he finds his forever home. There are so many animals like him that need love and care. Let's all do our part to support stray animals and local shelters." The response was overwhelming. Fans and followers shared the post, offering words of encouragement and pledging to help. Donations poured into local animal shelters, and adoption inquiries skyrocketed. The puppy's story touched hearts far and wide, inspiring many to consider opening their homes to animals in need. For Steph, the experience was a reminder that small acts of compassion could spark big changes. While the puppy eventually found a loving forever home, its story left a lasting impact on the Curry family and the community. It wasn't just about saving one dog, it was about creating a movement of kindness and hope. The day finally came when the scruffy little puppy, now healthy and full of life, found a loving forever home. The family that adopted it promised to give it the care and affection it deserved, ensuring the happy ending that Steph Curry and his family had hoped for. Watching the puppy leave, Steph felt a mix of joy and bittersweet emotion. It was hard to say goodbye, but knowing the dog would thrive brought him immense satisfaction. The puppy's story, however, didn't end there. Steph's social media post had sparked a wave of compassion across the community. Local animal shelters reported an increase in adoptions and donations, with many people inspired to open their homes to stray and abandoned animals. The once overlooked shelters now had the resources to rescue and care for even more animals in need. Reflecting on the experience, Steph realized how a simple act of kindness could ripple outward, creating meaningful change. It wasn't just about helping one puppy, he shared in an interview. It's about showing that every life matters, and even small actions can make a big difference. If we all take a little responsibility, the world can be a kinder place. The story of the stray puppy became a symbol of hope and compassion, reminding everyone that love and care can transform lives. For Steph, the experience reinforced his belief in using his platform for good, proving that the smallest gestures often leave the biggest impact. The story of the little stray puppy and Steph Curry is a powerful reminder of the impact one act of kindness can have. What started as a simple moment of compassion turned into a movement of hope and change. inspiring countless people to take action for stray and abandoned animals. Steph's choice to stop, care, and share the puppy's story not only saved a life, but also encouraged others to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. His actions showed that helping doesn't always require grand gestures. Sometimes, it's the small, thoughtful acts that make the biggest difference. This story is a call to action for all of us. Shelters are filled with animals longing for love and care, waiting for someone to give them a second chance. By supporting local animal rescues, donating, or even adopting, we can all play a part in creating a kinder world. Steph's act of kindness left a lasting impact, not just on the puppy but on an entire community. Let's carry that message forward. Together, we can make a difference, one paw at a time. Will you be part of the change?